United Nations Department of Safety and Security would like to advise you that in the event of an emergency in this room, please use the closest door marked with an exit sign. Upon exiting, you will be directed by security and safety personnel and directional exit signs to a designated safe area.
This is the second annual observance organized by the Srebrenica Genocide and the United Nations Outreach Program, established by UNGAHall Assembly Resolution 78282 and co-hosted with the Department of Global Communications under the leadership of Her Excellency USG Melissa Fleming. And it is the 31st anniversary of that week of 11 July 1995, of the day which will forever lay heavily on the collective conscience of the international community, the United Nations, and the modern history of our world. On behalf of all who are here today with us,
Excellencies, survivors, families of the victims, distinguished guests. It is for me an honor to stand with you today in remembrance of the victims of the genocide in Srebrenica. In July 1995, more than 8,000 Bosnian Muslim men and boys, many seeking the protection of the United Nations compound in Srebrenica, were systematically separated from their families, executed, and buried in mass graves. Thousands of women, children, and older persons were forcibly displaced. An entire generation was robbed of its future. It was the worst atrocity on European soil since the Second World War. But in love and in compassion, the only ground on which the living community can heal, even as pain endures. Excellencies, in 2024, this assembly designated this International Day of Reflection and Commemoration. To observe it, this is an accept duty to reaffirm the facts the courts have established, to acknowledge the suffering of the victims and pursue accountability. This is how trust is rebuilt, peace sustained, and atrocity prevented. The International Court of Caribbean Union for the Former and the International Court of Justice found that the acts committed in Srebrenica in 1995 constituted genocide. A future where dialogue, not division, carries us towards peace. But we must also confront a difficult reality. After Srebrenica, the world once again said never again. Yet, as we know, hate speech is on the rise, fueling discrimination, extremism, and division. Convicted war criminals are glorified. We cannot turn away from these warning signs. We must act early, for prevention is our shared duty and our surest protection. On this International Day, I call on every member state to uphold its shared responsibility, to confront denial with truth, and impunity with justice. So today we remember and honor the victims with humility and resolve. Humility before their immeasurable suffering. Resolve that such power will never be repeated. To the survivors and families, we stand with you in respect and in solidarity. And I ask everyone, everywhere, to remember Srebrenica, to listen to those who lived it, and to act on what they teach us in defense of human dignity, peace, and justice. I thank you.
and despite the designation of Srebrenica as a UN safe area. We know that we can never bring back the victims or undo the atrocities that were committed. But 31 years later, what we can do is honor the promises we made to survivors. Survivors like you, survivors like the mothers of Srebrenica, who not only lost their sons and husbands, but also endured the systematic rape of their daughters and granddaughters as part of ethnic cleansing, now living forever with these wounds of sexual violence. As every genocide is fought over the bodies of women. Honoring our promises to them also means strengthening national laws and institutions with regard to women's rights, and using them as a blueprint for other regions. In Bosnia and Herzegovina, legal reforms have recognized children born of wartime rape and expanded their access to social services. In some municipalities, laws removing the requirement to list a father's name on official documents have helped protect the rights and dignity of children born of conflict-related sexual violence. It also means enabling the officials of the International Criminal Court and other justice mechanisms to carry out their mandates without intimidation, threats, or interference today. And most importantly, honoring our promise of never again means confronting the warning signs before they escalate into atrocities. Because genocide, as we unfortunately witnessed more than 30 years ago, in Srebrenica, in Rwanda, and in far too many other places, does not begin with memories. It begins with hatred and discrimination, this attempt to divide people into us versus them.
We thank Her Excellency for her message. I would like now to invite His Excellency, Mr. Denis Mitrovic, Chairman of the Presidency of Bosnia and Herzegovina, for his address.
Excellencies, Eminencies, dear mothers of Srebrenica, distinguished representatives of victims' associations, in the hall of the United Nations General Assembly, numerous decisions that have influenced the history of modern humanity have been adopted. Over the past 80 years, in this most famous hall in the world, important resolutions have also been adopted. One of them is the resolution on the International Day of Reflection and Commemoration of the 1995 genocide in Srebrenica. The adoption of this resolution is a triumph of truth, a step towards justice and an encouragement for Bosnia and Herzegovina and the entire world.
I remember spending the night on the cold ground outside the United Nations base in Potocari. I remember women crying. I remember people running. I remember confusion. But above all, I remember absence. I do not know what it feels like to have a father. I often imagine what our conversation would have been like. What he would have told me. Whether he would have been proud of the woman I have become. These are the questions genocide leaves behind.
Recognizing hatred before it becomes prosecution, recognizing dehumanization before it becomes violence, and defending human dignity wherever it is threatened. Peace is not something we inherit automatically.
We need to know what was done by certain persons if we want not to repeat that. So this is why the work of these tribunals have a direct impact in how the society can process what happened in the past. A place like the Srebrenica Memorial is key to preserve the memory of what happened. And we need to make this record accessible to the communities, to the new generations who don't really know what happened and sometimes don't have the whole information. And this will be for the future a good example of how international justice can achieve results and can be useful in places where terrible things happened.
To educate, as dear Anwar said in the documentary, to never forget where hatred leads, and to never allow hate. From words to violence lies behind the feelings of death and legacy of hope after the 1995 genocide in Srebrenica, a new generation's journey. These were first presented in July last year separately and will showcase on 17 July a full story of the Srebrenica Genocide and its aftermath. Lastly, to all the colleagues who supported us today, we must never forget Srebrenica. It must never happen again to anyone, anywhere. Thank you very much.